Professor, I'm looking at a letter dated March 16, 2020. It's a letter to Governor Lamont in Connecticut. The title of it is Urgent Action Needed to Protect Individuals in Connecticut's Prisons and Jails from Coronavirus 19 Pandemic. Did you sign that letter?
So I don't recall sitting here today, Senator.
Here's your signature. Here's back here. Why didn't you turn this over to us when you were asked to submit documents?
So, Senator, I made every effort to search for everything that I had ever signed. That's not a letter I remember, but I will certainly take a look at that. And
we found it was with a search on the internet.
So I apologize, Senator. I apologize.
In your letter to the governor, here's what you say. As they stand, prisons and jails are detrimental to public health and human rights and disproportionately harm marginalized communities, including Black, Brown, Indigenous, and other communities of color, immigrants, people with mental illness, people with disabilities, people in the LGBTQ plus community, people who use drugs, people engaged in sex work and street economies, and people experiencing houselessness and poverty. So if you believe that about our prisons, how are you going to ever send somebody to prison?
So, Senator, I will need to take a look at that letter, and I apologize that that's not something I found to hand to this committee.
You're not denying you said that.
I do need to see the letter to see the context, because again, it's not something I remember adding my name to. Yeah. I can assure you, right. Senator.
And you also say, first, you call on Governor Lamont to release everybody in jail. Is that right? Because of the coronavirus?
So again, Senator, I would need to see that letter in front of me. It certainly was not.
You can find it just put your name into Google. You'll find it in about 3 nanoseconds.
I will, Senator. I can assure you that
You said in your letter, Professor, we call on Governor Lamont, state of Connecticut, and all Connecticut jurisdictions to immediate release to the maximum extent possible people incarcerated pre-trial and post-conviction. And then you go on to say, talking once again about our jails, the global COVID-19 pandemic is throwing into sharp relief the untenable state of our penal system and the need for sustained action to shrink its scale, shrink its size, and shrink its scope. You sound here like the district attorney in San Francisco. If you believe that, how are you going to ever send anybody to jail, Professor?
I can assure you, Senator, that I understand the role of the judge, and that I can assure you prison time is an appropriate sentence in many cases.
That's not what you say here to the governor. You wrote the governor. This isn't some DoorDash delivery guy. You wrote the governor of your state 3 years ago.
So again, Senator,
you were in law school.
So again, Senator, I would need to look at the letter. It sounds like it was written at the height of the pandemic, where governors were looking for.
You also wrote the governor, you said, people over the age of 55 are at the greatest risk for COVID-19, but also pose the least public safety risk to our communities. People in this age group can and should be released immediately to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. You think the governor if you're over the age of 55, he should have let everybody go?
No, Senator, that's not a position.
A tense Senate confirmation hearing takes a sharp turn as a professor-turned-judicial nominee is questioned about a 2020 letter urging mass prison releases during the COVID-19 pandemic. Senators press hard on past positions regarding incarceration, immigration detention, and public safety. Today's Senate confirmation hearing grew heated when a professor nominated for a federal judgeship faced tough questions about a controversial letter from the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Senators accused the nominee of withholding the document, which called for sweeping changes to the prison system in Connecticut. At the center of the exchange was a March 16, 2020 letter addressed to Governor Ned Lamont of Connecticut. The letter urged urgent action to protect incarcerated individuals from the coronavirus. When pressed, the nominee claimed not to recall signing it, but senators quickly pointed out that her signature appeared clearly at the bottom and that the document had to be found online rather than disclosed by her team. The letter described prisons and jails as detrimental to public health and human rights, disproportionately harming marginalized groups, including people of color, immigrants, the LGBTQ+ community, and those experiencing homelessness or poverty. It further called for immediate release of incarcerated individuals both pre-trial and post-conviction, and argued that the pandemic highlighted the need to shrink the penal system's size, scope, and scale. Senators pushed back, asking how someone who had endorsed such views could sentence individuals to prison if confirmed as a judge. They highlighted passages in the letter urging the release of older inmates, halting new arrests, and stopping transfers to immigration detention facilities. One senator bluntly asked, "If you truly believe this, how will you ever send anyone to prison?" The nominee repeated,
"People in this age group can and should be released immediately to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. You think the governor just, if you're over age of 55, he should let everybody go?"
No, Senator, that's not a position.
That's what you said.
Okay.
Here it is, biggest Dallas.
Again, Senator, I will look at that letter. I can assure you that...
Find it on Google, Professor. You also say Governor Lamont should issue an executive order to direct the state's attorney offices and law enforcement entities, including the town and city police departments, and any federal law enforcement entity operating within the state to immediately cease adding to the incarcerated prison population given the high risk of infection posed by the population increase. You asked the governors to tell every law enforcement official in the state to stop arresting people and putting them in jail, didn't you?
So again, Senator, I have to look at that letter. I do think there were modifications that the governors were making around the country.
Appointments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and hit the subscriber button for more political showdowns. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.